But Coach Gwen in that one-on-one, I'm telling you, Holly, that was like the most powerful one-on-one that I've ever had. So the biggest draw for me in the academy was I'm a great grant writer. I'm a phenomenal nonprofit executive, but I was a horrible business person in terms of managing my own business. Because I mean, Holly, I had a tendency to give away the farm. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize I was giving away the farm until I had my one-on-one with Coach Gwen. And she's
Mhm.
like, okay, walk me through what you typically do with a client. And I was like, oh, I do this and I do that. And I go and pick the apples and then I polish the apples and then I chop the apples up and then I make the apple pie and then I serve the apple pie and I go get them ice cream. And she's like, okay. She said, the client only gets the apple from this point forward. And I
Mhm.
said,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
Because she's like,
Right.
she said, if they want the ingredients for the apple pie, she said, that's a recipe. That's one price. She said, if they want you to
Yeah.
prep the ingredients to bake the apple pie, she's like, then that's another price. She said, they want you to bake the apple pie and serve the apple pie, that's another price. And she said, but they don't get the recipe and the apple pie and the server all at one time.
I
And,
love it.
I mean,
Love it.
that we spent an hour together just going through and breaking because my biggest thing was I was scared to set my prices. And I think
Mm.
for us as women, I think there are a lot of women
Mhm.
like that. Women are afraid to set our price. And if we do set our price, then we try to over explain and over justify it. And,
Yeah.
being in the academy, I've
You're
learned to
like, "I'm
say,
gonna validate the hell out of this."
yes, I got to
Right?
validate it. I got
Yeah.
to validate it. It's like, okay, well, I know I said this, but here's what you're getting. My price is my
Yeah.
price. This is my
Mhm.
price. You can either pay it or not pay it, but the price doesn't change.
Yeah.
The academy
Yeah.
gave me the confidence that I needed in the business. I was confident in running my nonprofit. I was confident in the
Yeah.
nonprofit world, but packaging the
Mhm.
services as a provider, that's where
Mhm.
I was, and I know I wasn't confident because I wasn't pricing my services properly. And that's the first clue that you're not confident in what you're doing when you start
Yeah.
underpricing yourself.
Absolutely. Because it shows up. I mean, it just shows up. It's so clear, as you mentioned. And sometimes you don't know you're underpricing until like you underprice and then you start doing the services and then you're like, ooh, right?
Yes.
So there's some learning to it, but like if you've been in it for a while, you kind of know sometimes too, like, I'll just give them a discount because whatever. And then in the back of your mind, that like your real self knows that, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And
Set me up for failure. Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
So
they're getting ready to ask for something else. Oh my gosh, I should have really charged for this. I even tell people now, I had one client that they were like, when we first negotiated, I said, I'll send you an invoice every month. And, the invoice was just, these are the services. So then they came back a couple of weeks and they were like, well, we need an itemized invoice. No, sir. Itemized invoices are extra.
good for
And if you want an
you.
itemized
Yeah.
invoice, those are charged at $175 an hour with a 3-hour minimum. So do you really want an itemized invoice? Right.
I love that. That goes back to valuing yourself. And I imagine on the other end of that conversation, like they're like, no, that's okay. Like there's a different relationship with you when you step into your value as well.
Yes.
Right? How have you seen that too from your clients' end, like respecting your time more, respecting your work more, just
Well,
because
and
you're
so
respecting
one of
it?
the things that Coach Gwen also taught me was to get Calendly and to
Mhm.
send, like, when people say, I want to schedule some time with you, set it up in 15-minute blocks, and then have a timer. And when that 15 minutes is up, then you say, hey, I've got to run to my next call. But if you want to book a longer call, here's the link. And you can also go ahead and make your deposit because, I only do one
Mhm.
15-minute consult. And after that, it's a 1-hour strategy session. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Gives you a little bit of a warm lead as well. Like, I love that. I love that. Coach Gwen is awesome.
Yes.
Love Coach Gwen.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. So you're coming in with more strategy, more confidence, more value. What are other things inside the academy and like just for the last few months that you've been in that you've really been able to like that have impacted your business? Any of the resources or the other things?
So what I love is I love that we can submit a grant that we're working on and we can get
Yeah.
feedback. And I love that the feedback is like within 4 or 5 days because when you're working on something, it's like you're often against a time crunch. And then I also love that we
Yeah.
have the Fridays where you can just bring whatever you're working on and sit there and have other people. So it's almost like being in a co-working space and being able to bounce ideas off of
Mhm.
people. And it's like, okay, hey,
Love
I'm
it.
getting ready to put this in the narrative. Does this make sense to you? Because if it makes sense to
Yeah.
somebody who's not even a part of that organization, it'll make sense to a grant reviewer.
Exactly. I love that so much. And I love that you're like, you're also like, you have so much experience in securing grants, in winning grants, and you're still utilizing the grant reviews. And I love that you're doing that because we all got to be humble. And we all, even if we're great making it rain grant writers, like we're still like operating from a lens sometimes of speed, right? And just
Yes,
like this, like I'm not seeing it from the outside because I'm so in it, so I might miss something. Just because even like the more embedded you get in a nonprofit, sometimes there's even more opportunity to miss things because we're too inside. So
because you're
I
too inside.
love that you're utilizing.
And
Yeah.
Coach D is like the best grant reviewer ever. Like she goes above and beyond in her reviews. Like she breaks it down and you really know, like she'll say, okay, you did good at this, but I was reading it. I was a little confused here. So she truly goes through every part. And I'm sure that all of them do. But Coach D has been the
Yeah.
one that's reviewed all of my grants that I'm like, hey, I need another pair of eyes on this.
I love that so much. I love that you're talking about our coaches too, because our coaches are just world class. Like they're absolutely amazing. They've also been through the academy, like they understand it back and forth, but they are so on it with giving reviews, with giving coaching, like all of the things that they do. So I'm so glad that's been helpful for your
Yes.
business. And as you continue to grow it, and one of the other things that you mentioned in the green room, so I do want to touch on this real quick, is you said, you're actually in litigation, like you're doing something here. And you said, I would have never had the courage to do that because now I value. Can you talk about that a little bit? And I know you can't probably talk
Yeah.
about all the details, but just a little bit on the surface level.
And it's like one of the things that I've learned to tell people when they ask me about, I want to start a grant writing business. I said, okay, well, the first thing I'll tell you is that if you can't afford to litigate, then you are not in a position to negotiate. I wouldn't have had the confidence to say, you know what? No, you are going to pay the money that you owe me. We had an
Hmm.
agreement, we had a contract, you broke the contract. You can't just
Yeah.
arbitrarily break a contract. There are consequences. I mean, you can break a contract, but there are consequences. And
Yeah.
I would not have
Yeah.
had the confidence to say that, had I not been in the academy, had I not found the confidence in myself to find my worth. Because, and I always
Yeah.
tell people, I said, when a woman realizes her worth, that's when she becomes really, really dangerous because
Yeah.
she is not going to allow anybody to walk on her ever again.
Yeah, there's a lot of empowerment with that. And there's a lot of amazing change in the world when a woman realizes her value and steps into that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Dangerous, but also powerful. And
Powerful.
also
Yes.
very good things that she will fight for. So I love that you are, in that lane of like, okay, yeah, this is my value. These are the things. This is just how my business operates. If you break a contract, this is what happens. Like it can be pretty neutral too. Like, okay, now I understand my power. Now I understand my value. And this is just how it works. Right. Like there is something so nice about that. Because if we think about it, that's how a man would operate.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's that was the thing that I had told someone. I said, the sad thing is if I were a man, I would never be in litigation because they would have already felt my worth. but
Mhm.
because I'm a woman
Mhm.
and a Black
Mm.
woman, there's like
Mm.
that double edge of I'm somehow less than. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, no. No, I know my worth. I know my worth, and I know that you are trying to play me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take it. There's no point in
Yeah.
that. So, I'm gonna use the systems that I have, and let's go.
But Coach Gwen in that one-on-one, I'm telling you, Holly, that was like the most powerful one-on-one that I've ever had.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
Yes.
amazing. She's amazing. And that was just a bonus. That was a bonus in the academy because you paid in full, right? Like, so yeah, and I love that. That was like a game changer for your entire business was the bonus. Like, so, so good.
I didn't
Yeah.
know how to price myself, and I think that that's where a lot of brand new people coming into the grant writing world, they don't know how to price themselves because they're either coming out of a nonprofit world where we're taught to, operate on a shoestring and, or they're coming from corporate America where they were undervalued anyway. And now you're
Mhm.
in this space of where you've got to figure it out for yourself and you've got to figure out what you're worth, and how do you know what you're
Yeah.
worth if no one's ever given you an opportunity to see your value?
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I always say it too, like service businesses, it's so much more ambiguous than like a product business, even though we do deliver products like a grant, right? A grant isn't product, but we're in the operations of doing the service first. And like products, a lot of times, like you're going to make a widget like this bracelet, the cost for goods and all of the things, right? Like it's a lot easier. But services, no. And there isn't like I've done so much research, gotten every single book, which there's not a lot for service pricing out there, right? To really understand and break this down and worked with like thousands of people and like all of the things to really figure out. So we really lean into value-based pricing and giving you guys like some strategies on how to understand what that value is and how to price it, right? And how to feel good about it, right? So I'm so glad that that was really helpful for you because I know we talked about this just the other day. Me and the co-coaches, we were talking about overall. Still, once again, number one questions in the academy are about pricing. Like it's just consistent. It's consistent, right? Because it's so ambiguous. So I'm
And
so
because
glad that
nobody
was
really
helpful.
teaches you, like, you don't know how to price it. Like, how do you value, it takes me 20 hours to do research on a federal grant. How do I value that? And how do I put a price tag on that?
Yeah. So we help you get there. So and I love like, oh, now you have a strategy, right? So now it's like, oh, now I just have a formula to figure it out. And I think that's what's missing too is so many people don't like talk, especially in America. Other places they're great about talking about money. So how much do you make? You want to talk about that, but in America, like they don't talk about it very much, right? Like there's
Right.
not a lot of talk about money. Money is very like, sometimes you might see a lot of people like, I'm a high net worth individual or whatever, and some people are talking about it, but moreover, most people are not talking about numbers. And in the academy, we've really, and in the mentorship especially, we really normalized, let's talk about it. How much did you make? What did you do? Like
Mhm.
instead getting rid of the shame, getting rid of all the things around, and like let's just neutralize it. Does that feel good? Is that a good price for you? Are you able to pay your bills? Are you able to save up for retirement? Like what does that mean to you? And just talking about it makes it less scary and weird and out there and abstract, right? Do you find that as well inside the academy? Because we talk about money a
Yeah.
lot.
I think for me, the biggest thing in the academy was seeing what other grant consultants were charging and seeing
Yeah.
that they were actually struggling with setting their price points too, because for a long time I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one struggling with this. I'm like, I have no
Mhm.
idea what I'm worth. But, being in a group and the Slack channel, being able to look at the Slack channel and just look historically. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, everybody's asking this question. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay, so we do got to wrap this up, but I have so enjoyed talking to you. And I also just want to talk about your books real quick. You have 5 published books out there. So, which is quite amazing. And you also mentioned you have and that one of your newest books, I believe, is going to be about grant writing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I have fallen in love with AI and using AI for
Mhm,
grant writing and AI for RFPs. And so one of my newest books that I'm working on that's going to drop in late December, early January is called Grants That Grow. And it's all about using AI to build your grants and to build your RFPs and, to really help you when you don't have access to a grant writer because I'm not free anymore, y'all. And I'm
mhm,
definitely not cheap anymore because again,
mhm.
I learned my worth in the academy. So I have that book coming out. And then I've also got my classes on Thinkific so that people who have read the book and they're like, I really want to go a little bit deeper with figuring out how to use this AI for my grants and how to do this with the RFPs, they can join the classes. And, that was something that I really learned in the academy was making, building it out, building all of these revenue streams. Like you've got to have your
Yeah.
revenue streams.